Hey, Terrence, this is Philippe from Taji Mag. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Good, good. So we're finally here. We've been all been waiting for this magical moment for your baby to finally be delivered. How's it feel right now?
It feels good. It feels surreal. I didn't think this was. I had kind of written this off, so it's kind of nice for it to actually be happening. So yeah, it feels really cool for people
Yeah,
to kind of get to see it.
yeah. I mean, because you put so much into this project, Demascus, and so much in one episode. It doesn't seem like it's overstuffed. I feel like it's all like delivered in a tactful, meaningful, and palatable way. Um, how did you come up with it to be so genre bending? Was that intentional? Like, how did you come up with it?
Yeah. Well, it started out as a play. I was at Juilliard at the time, and the way that you Juilliard works in the playwriting program is that you write each playwright writes a full play and brings it in each week. My week was coming up and I didn't have a play, so I kind of came up with I wrote down this like argument tension that was happening in my relationship with my wife at the time, and it was just like this really personal little play. It was a one act. Um, and it kind of resolved what I was working through within the relationship and in my head, and they just kind of lived there. And it was like I felt like that story was complete, but I wasn't done with those characters because they were my wife and I like they're fun, they're interesting, and so I wanted to do more with that. And so I just kind of devised. So with that, I kind of devised this idea around like ways to put them in different scenarios and have them sort of like act out in different ways. And that's kind of where the sci-fi element came in. This idea of like using psychiatry or to be able to see different realities and kind of figure things out that way. Because I felt like at that time too, I was a traveling playwright. So I was like in LA and New York and then Texas and then Baltimore, and I was finding myself like I feel like I was embodying different realities when I was getting off of different cities and different planes and interacting with family and donors and just all kinds of things. So I kind of used that to kind of define what the world was, and so like the genre thing just sort of felt natural to that. I'm sort of like a genre freak. I like things with rules so that they can be broken, and but using the things that are kind of like best about them. And so it's kind of one of the things I was trying to do with the show, sort of bring those elements of genre and place and time that I liked, but be able to kind of fuck with them.
Yeah. And that's what I appreciate about you, man. You said you wanted to know the rules and break them. You went to Captain here in DC. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm here right now, currently DC. And then
Oh,
you went to
nice.
Juilliard. So you've been all over the place, man. So I wanted to ask you about this therapy thing. And sometimes you hear about the quote, "There's truth in jokes."
Hmm.
And with the first episode, and with all the episodes, you kind of tell the truth with jokes. Was that intentional as well, or how do you think people will receive that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a writer, that's always what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell the truth. I don't think of myself as a comedy writer.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I think of myself as one and I try to sit down and write something funny, it's terrible. But what I really try to do is like I try to listen to people and I find the humor in like the way people talk and the way people interact. And that's what's really like the funny things in the show to me are things that no one else is laughing at. It's like the weird face the person made or but I think around that there is a lot of humor. And for me, like I kind of have this philosophy of everything is funny until it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how I approach life. And so that's how I kind of approach the story. And so I felt like there was a way to like infuse, I wanted to teach messages and like have things to say, but also make it palatable for people. So I think that's what the humor is for me. It's like the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down. It's kind of a way to get people into the story without and going on your journey without like kind of, just a cool way to kind of do that.
Okay. And how much was the title and the name of the character was inspired by Damascus and the story about Democles?
It was sort of, I guess, like in a in an inherent way. Like I knew about it, but I wasn't thinking about it when I did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am familiar with the Bible. I grew up in the church, and so like the stories, they are what they are, and I kind of put them in my brain somewhere. They're in my brain somewhere. And so when I chose the name, it was just a sort of a name. It kind of jumped out at me and it felt right. So I named him Demascus. And then as I was like processing the play and workshopping it with other people, I looked back into the story and I was like, oh, wow, I was really, my brain or something or the universe was all aligning for something, because that really makes a lot of sense. It does have a lot of like, but it wasn't something that I set out to kind of do. I just had the name, and then it all made sense why I guess I chose it on some level.
Okay. And then we have the DIRT, the digital immersive reality therapy. How did that come about? Because I kind of interpret it as being a video game, being a television series. Like, how'd you come up with, and would you use it if it was real?
Yes, I would definitely use it. I could say that I would love to see, like, that's sort of where I've always been sort of fascinated with the multiverse. It was like I feel like even as a child, I came up with the multiverse before I knew what it was. Like I used to think about, like, there's a version of me who's doing this, or you know, and then when I came into like literature and film, who had the thing, I was really attracted to that. So yeah, it just always seemed like a form of storytelling and a thing that I'm really interested in. And so I would definitely try it. I would definitely try it out. And especially with the aim of like really trying to figure out what is consistent about me over time, over space. Like, what is the true nature of myself? I think that's an interesting way to kind of approach that question.
Okay. And one of the standout characters that I enjoy, because I was like, that's my uncle, or that's an amalgamation of my uncles, is Uncle 40. Can you talk about the creation of that character and what was it like discussing that in the writer's room?
Yeah, he was he's based on my uncle, on a couple of my uncles. I have an Uncle 50, and so Uncle 40 is a real steal from him. But then he's also based on my Uncle Bernard, who I grew up with, and I mean, the writer's room kind of already understood who he was. Everybody has that uncle, you know, the one who, the head buster of the family, you know, and so like it was a really interesting thing. Martin, the funny thing is that Martin never came up in my mind as like the person to play him, because I felt like that was shooting too high, you know. And so when his team got it and they were into it and they got it to him and he was into it, it was just like a pinch me moment, you know. It was like this man who like sort of is fundamentally part of like what I think is funny. Like You So Crazy is like top tier funniest things to me in my life. Like I quote it all the time in just random everyday situations. And so to have him be a part of it was like this really cool full circle moment.
And then you had this a thin line between love and hate moment, I feel like, in this series. Yeah. Who came up with that to have Lynn Whitfield and Mark
it was
the same dinner table?
Yeah, it was like me and Mikey and Ted Witcher, Mikey Bajaj, who was the producer, and Ted Witcher, who was the director of that episode and writer. We just sort of came, like, once Martin fell into place, and then we had this other spot for an actress, we just thought like Lynn just made a good fit. You know, that'd just be like a funny, like, thin line in between love and hate is one of my favorite movies growing up, and so like to see them on screen again, there's even some nods to it, like he calls her Miss Lady like he does in the movie, and so you know, we really leaned into that. But it was just once Martin was placed, it just kind of made sense, and we reached out and she was on board, so it was just kind of a cool, she was available, so it was, everything sort of aligned.
And I kind of want to get your perspective, and maybe you're going to leave it to the audience, but Naomi and Buddy, like, what did you think they interpreted in what did you originate for them to interpret, and then what do you hope that they interpret it as?
Yeah, I think they are really two kind of choices in Demascus's life. It's like whether he is going to like pursue his passion or do things as sort of he's been prescribed to do. And so I think that they sort of represent those two choices. Like, Buddy is the person that makes sense on paper. She's the, you know, perfect person for him. And Naomi kind of presents as this sort of exotic sort of option. And I think they play a role in his development and, pushing him forward in a lot of ways, in like the way that my wife and women in my life sort of helped me move through grief and things of that nature. And so it sort of mirrors that idea that they're there to kind of challenge him in a way that women do.
Okay. And then I wanted to talk to you about the music as well. Raphael Sadiq, man. How'd you pull that off?
I know. I mean, it was, I don't know. People really bought into the script. I don't know what was in it, what happened, but yeah, that was like a huge haul. I mean, I think it was just sort of, he was into it. And, I felt like a lot of people saw that I was trying to do something and they wanted to like help out, like to honestly lend their platform to me. So kind of to make this thing what it was. And so, yeah, crazy. I know. It was like, I was like, my aunt is like a big music head. And so like, I was taking screenshots of my FaceTimes with him. Like, look, auntie, look who I'm talking to. This is strange. It's really strange. Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to bring up about this is the topic of the black male being the white males in the POC community. You had that conversation. I was really interested about that. I was like, you know what? That was interesting to pull that off. Like, he was listing all the things that Demascus was doing. I'm like, do I do that?
Yeah, there are a lot of implications with that. Like, when I was at Juilliard, we did this really interesting, racial sensitivity training for the group. There was some incidents that happened, and we talked about privilege, and we had these people come in and facilitate this like dialogue. And we talked about, when we talk about privilege, you had to there were like 9 or 10, I can't remember, there were like a few different types of privilege. And I feel like I had all but one of them, which was being white. And I was like, oh, I have a lot of privilege myself. And so there's just something like, there's a lot more to say about that subject, but I really wanted to sort of show how like you or black men can be inadvertently swept up into something that, or be a part of a dialogue that we aren't a part of. And so, but we are being held the responsibility of, facilitating and moving within these circles. And so like what that looks like when you're not up on it, and not even because you have any like biases, it's just like, you're just not thinking about it. And so, yeah, I thought it was like an interesting way to kind of broach that conversation about like the privilege that he does have and how that contributes to his lack of understanding of himself.
Okay. And then right now, we've heard a lot of writers losing their jobs and what have you, or not getting as much work. This show seems therapeutic for that. Any job for that matter right now, because there are people losing their jobs. What advice would you give to people who are struggling right now and are afraid of losing their income and losing their passion? What advice? Because I mean, this one was kind of like you said, you was kind of nervous about this not coming out.
Uh-huh.
What advice would you give after going through this experience?
I just think keep creating. Like I did sit for a little while and mourn this and get through it and work myself around it and come to a place about it. But the thing that was consistent, I just kept, I had other ideas, and so like not to get too caught up on one thing being a thing or there being one specific path. That was sort of my thing. It was like when I was filming and I was like, oh, this is going to happen. And then I'm going to get this. And then there's going to be this awards. And then that's going to happen. And it was like, I got way too ahead of it. And so like when that happened, it just made me realize like, okay, this may not be the thing, or it may be something else. And it's best to just keep working, just to keep, even if you're like riding into the abyss, you have to keep the work and keep it true. Like as long as you're telling the truth, it's going to resonate. And so, yeah, just keep telling the truth.
Man, and I wanted to say, like, this was very important because it was so relatable and it just hit so many notes. I was like, this might be the best time for it to come out right now. I don't know if he knows this is a blessing because with all the stuff going on in the world and all the social media and all that stuff, this is stuff that people are going through, not just Damascus or males or black males. This is needed. So I want to tell you, Tearrance, man, you did a wonderful job putting this together.
Oh, thank you.
And this is much needed because I'm like, these are the like unique conversations that we have that people don't see on TV. And we want to have more. So what do you want to happen in the future with this and other projects that you have?
Well, I would love to keep telling the story about Damascus. I mean, it's so personal. I've grown since I wrote the first version. I've had a son since then, and I'd love to talk about fatherhood and how that shapes my identity now. And but I've also got other stories in the like. I realized that under these, I'm just a storyteller, and I'm going to figure out ways to tell story, even if I don't, I'm just sitting around the fire with family. I'm going to tell stories, and so I'm working on other things. I just wish to be able to keep telling stories to people, however big the audience, small the audience. I just want to keep telling the truth and keep talking my shit, I guess.
Well, thanks. I could ask so many more questions, man, because like I said, I like your work and I hope everything continues to go well. If anything that we can do to help support you, let us know. Are you trying to do theater next? Or are you trying to do movies next? Or is it anything?
I've got a movie I'm working on. I've got in development on a couple of pilots. I'm writing my own pilot. I'm working on a graphic novel. Like I've got them coming from every angle. I just want to tell stories in whatever medium that I can get my hands on. So yeah, I'm working on a new play. It's all the things.
Oh my, that's so much, dude. Well, thank you for taking this time out, man. Hopefully we can stay in contact because I do want to keep putting you out there because I'm like, we need this. We really, really need this.
Appreciate it.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks you, Carly.
Have a good afternoon.
You too.